Hi everyone, in today's video we are going to start our series on the history of Islam. We will mention briefly a few details regarding the life of the Prophet of Islam and also what was the situation in Arabia before the appearance of Islam. We have to say that Islam appeared in what is today Mecca, what is in modern day Saudi Arabia, and in the Arabian Peninsula at that time there was a time in which the cities were composed of different groups, different religions. Especially there were many Jews and Christians who were established in the city of Yathrib, what is today Medina, but there were other people in Arabia that practiced certain kind of monotheistic religion in the line of the Abrahamic tradition, that they were not Jews, neither Christians. They simply follow the Abrahamic way and they rejected idol worship. Now the majority of the people in the Arabian Peninsula were idol worshippers, and we have to understand that by this time in all of the Middle East, Arabia was the only place in which people still practice this kind of worship to idols. In general, the majority of all the Middle East, from what is today Syria, Palestine, Lebanon, all of this area up to Iraq, these people were following the monotheistic way. Either they were Christians or they were Jews or Sabians or Zoroastrians, which were all monotheistics. Only in Arabia, people were still in the majority doing idol worship and these kind of things. And this is the context in which the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, was born. Now, what we have until the modern time regarding the history of the Prophet of Islam, there are three main sources for information from which Muslim scholars and historians draw from. The first one is the Quran, the revelation. The second is the Hadith, the sayings, the deeds of the Prophet. And third, we have very early biographies by great historians that wrote about the life of the Prophet. These are the three main sources that we have of information regarding the history of the Prophet of Islam. And one of these very, very important sources, just to mention an example, is the history of the great Persian scholar Tabari, who indeed draw from these sources that I just mentioned, but also from Jewish and Christian sources regarding the life of the Prophet and the early beginnings of Islam. Now, let's talk about the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. According to Ibn Ishaq, who was also one of the first biographers, it says that Muhammad was born on a Monday during the night of the 12th day of the month of Rabi' al-Awwal in the year of the elephant, which corresponds to the year 570 CE. Now, this date has been questioned. There has been certain doubts by certain scholars regarding the authenticity of this information, but in general the Islamic tradition has accepted this as the official date of the birth of the Prophet. Indeed, until this very day there are many countries in which the birthday of the Prophet is celebrated. So according to the Islamic tradition, this is the day that has been more commonly accepted. We must mention regarding the birth of the Prophet that when his mother was 2 months pregnant, the father of the Prophet died, he passed away, and we have to understand that at that time, if you are born into a family and you don't have a father, for sure is a very difficult situation. And not only back then, but even today, to a mother to raise a baby by herself is very difficult. But also back then, it was even much more difficult. Even though he came from a very important and noble Arabic clan, Banu Hashim, still was very difficult for a mother, a single mother, to raise a baby. And she had to give her, the baby to a wet nurse. They look into the surrounding Bedouin tribes, and they look for a woman to wet nurse the baby, because the mother, she couldn't take care of the baby when he was born. Now, even though they look around and around, the Bedouin women, they didn't want to take the baby. They were afraid that since there was no father, they couldn't obtain any benefit from it. And at the end, there was a woman named Halima. Halima had no choice. She didn't want to return empty-handed to her village, and she decided to take the baby. So for the next 4 years, the little baby Muhammad, he was with Halima. Now, according to tradition, it says that Halima started noticing weird things around the baby. At some point, it is said that she was the wet nurse for many other babies, not only for Muhammad. But at some point, she had no milk, and suddenly, like in a miraculous way, she had like a lot of milk to wet all these babies. And there were certain things that happened that she thought that the baby maybe was ill, and she was afraid that he might die. And she went and returned the baby to his mother. Now, Muhammad was then with his mother for the next 2 years. And one day, when on the road to Medina, she also passed away. So at the age of 6 years old, he was orphan, poor, alone, without parents. What happened then is that the little boy was taken to Mecca, and his grandfather was then took care of him. But also soon his grandfather also passed away, and the baby was taken by his uncle, Abu Talib. So Abu Talib raised the little boy, little Muhammad, as his own son. And he grew up, became a shepherd. Abu Talib had a business. He was a businessman. And soon the little boy used to accompany his uncle in travels with the caravans. He went up to Syria, and he soon learned the business and became very successful. It is said that indeed during this journey to Syria, that a Christian monk noticed the character, the noble character of this young boy, and told the uncle that one day he will be a great person. And indeed, he was known because of his character, and his reputation grew. It says that no one could miss his honesty, helpfulness, and gentleness. It is such that at 12 years old, he was invited to take part in a council of a tribe among the tribal chiefs. And we have to understand that with such an age, to be invited with the elders of a clan, of a tribe, to take decisions in such an important council, is because they indeed consider him mature enough, trustworthy enough, and responsible enough, so they trust him and include him at such early age in this, let's say, meeting among the chief of the tribe. Now, his reputation kept growing, and it is said that he built a career as a tradesman, as a businessman, and his reputation grew such an extent that it got into the ears of a wealthy businesswoman. Her name, Khadija. Khadija decided then to offer employment to the young Muhammad. She immediately felt drawn to him because of his character, and also because he was very effective in the business, in the job. He was very successful. So Khadija sent a proposal of marriage to marry him, and he accepted. The Islamic tradition says that at this time he was 25 years old and Khadija was 40 years old when this marriage took place. Now there's another tradition that says that he was 25 years old and Khadija was 28. But the accepted tradition by the majority is that she was 40. The thing is that even though she was older than him, that was not a problem. And indeed they got married and was a successful marriage. They had several children. Among them, the firstborn was Qasim. He died at the age of 2, followed by Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, Fatima, and finally Abdullah, who also died before his 2nd birthday. The only surviving children were his daughters. His reputation continued to grow. In Mecca, he was really known and was called and accepted as someone who was trustworthy, someone whose word was indeed truthful. And by this time, at the age of 35, Muhammad started to feel like a really strong urge towards connection with God, spirituality. He was indeed searching for answers, because at that time Mecca was full of idols, in what is today the Kaaba, and the different tribes and clans, they have many gods. But he never worshipped or followed these beliefs, because indeed he was looking for something else, for the real essence, for the Creator. And at this age, he used to go and by the outskirts of Mecca, and in a cave, he spent close to a month meditating and trying to look for answers, with the hope that maybe doing such mystical meditation alone in a cave, remotely placed outside of the city, he thought that maybe God would communicate with him or find answers, the answers that he was looking for. And indeed, for the next years, he kept doing this until at the age of 40, something happened. Tradition says that at the age of 40, while he was meditating in this cave, the angel Gabriel appeared to him and announced that God has chosen him as a prophet, Rasulullah, as the last prophet to all humanity. And the experience was such, he was so terrified of what happened to him in that cave, that he went running to his house. When he knocking on the door, his wife opened the door, he just told her, hug me. And he was really afraid. His wife hugged him, and indeed asked him what happened. And then he told her all the experience at the cave. Then Khadija went and spoke with her cousin, Waraqa ibn Nawfal. He was a Christian, and this man predicted that indeed Muhammad was not what he had experienced, indeed was a revelation from God, because his character, his qualities were so good that he couldn't be the devil. Therefore, indeed, his wife, and according to Waraqa also, they believe in him, and they said, if this is what God has told you, it's true. He has chosen you, and you have to listen to him. And we find in the Quran, in chapter 96, at the beginning, that the following sentence: read in the name of thy sustainer who has created. And these were the first words that were revealed to him by the angel Gabriel. And after this, there was a flow of revelation that used to come in certain periods, and there was a time in where there was no revelation, and then it came back again. So things were revealed progressively, and so according to irregular intervals. At the beginning, his wife believed in his message, his cousin Ali also believed in his message, but his uncle Abu Talib did not believe in him. And soon he was preaching in the town market in Mecca, and the people of Mecca felt threatened because of this message, because they felt that he was attacking their gods, that he was attacking their society, their norms, the tradition, their power, their hold onto the power of the city, because the tribe to which the Prophet belonged, Quraysh, was the most powerful tribe at that time, and indeed they felt that he was challenging their authority in the city and all the area. Soon he encountered opposition. Now, what was the nature of his message? What was that he was talking to them? What was the preaching message that he was delivering to the people? In his book, Introduction to Islam by Professor Tariq Ramadan, he delineates these 4 points. 4 points regarding the essence of the message of the Prophet at the beginning. The first one, the faith in the uniqueness of God, Tawheed, the unity of God. Second, the Quran as the word of God. Third, the imperative of prayer and good deeds. And ultimately, the return to God on the day of judgment. So for the next 13 years, he openly, sometimes secretly because of the opposition, used to preach to the inhabitants of Mecca. And indeed many people started to accept his message and to follow him. And we have here that women as well as men, the majority also of poor people, slaves, also saw liberation in the message that the Prophet Muhammad was preaching. And this is how we have right here the beginnings of what later became known as the Islamic religion. In the next video, we will explain how the situation in Mecca got so difficult and so dangerous that there was a need for migration, and how he moved to the city of Yathrib. Yathrib was later known as Medina. We will explain more about this in the following video, in which we will talk about the many details related to the early beginnings of Islam. Thank you so much for your attention. As you can see, this is simply a very resume or very short way to explain the origins of Islam. It's a very long topic. We're just trying to explain in a very clear and concise way so you can have an idea how originated the Islamic religion in Arabia at this time. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see each other in the following videos. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll see you next time.